in the Pentagon would have been intercepted long before they got there.
That actually happened with Payne Weber, the golfer, who was in
Yes,
a small
it took
plane, had a heart
16
attack.
minutes for two F-16s to intercept him. Those four hijacked airliners, if indeed they were hijacked, flew around for an hour and 40 minutes without being intercepted. That simply does not happen. There are a lot of other things. I watched the top of one of the World Trade Center towers tip about 30 degrees. Conservation of angular momentum says that it had to keep going and it would have fallen off, and of course the rest of the building would have been standing. That's not what happened. It started tipping over and suddenly it was coming straight down and straightening up again and going through the path of greatest resistance and falling at free fall speed. Absolutely physically impossible without outside forces, explosives of some kind. I don't know who, I don't know how, I don't know what, but what we do know is that the government's official conspiracy theory is a lie. We have not been told the truth.
No
that
question.
much we know.
But there are people who were involved. Certainly, there's hundreds of charges in each of those buildings required to create that physical effect.
Yeah, but
they remodeled the building for years leading up to 9/11. They were moving, vacating floors and remodeling, gutting walls and such.
Can I ask you another question?
The whole World Trade Center was shut down the weekend before.
Oh, well, that's interesting. Mike Ruppert wrote his book based on, like you, having a military connection and knowing that there was something wrong there. He contacted through, I think, his family's connection, something like that, some people who were willing to say, look, there was something funny that day. And I have to ask you, do you have connections that give you some kind of information that can shed light on this and perhaps move some of these people?
No.
No. You
No.
don't. It's too old.
I just, you know, there have been whistleblowers and they've just been ignored by the media. I mean, how many hundreds of people have testified that they heard explosions before the planes even hit?
Yeah, the testimonies of 160 emergency workers that were there. 160 testimonies testifying to demolitions in the building as they were in the building and
not only before they fell, but in some cases before the airplanes struck the first time. Explosions in the sub-basement.
Right.
Molten metal in the sub-basement, molten steel.
Yeah.
So jet fuel 70 stories up is not going to put molten metal in the sub-basement.
I haven't had a chance to mention, but we have a whole
I don't
table.
know how it happened, but it didn't happen the way Bush said it did.
what do you think of the analysis of the so-called Finnish military expert? He had a very short, fairly succinct website in several parts, postulating a nuclear or more than one nuclear event in the towers, and had it broke it down very well, I thought, into you know, some of the elements of mechanization of it, including directed nuclear. And after all, we the unwashed don't know the developments in nuke technology since 1950.
Well, it certainly is possible that there were many nukes involved. It would match some of the evidence. I really don't know. I mean, we need an investigation that looks into things. I mean, we don't even, the Kane-Hamilton Commission, and I've discussed this with both Governor Kane and Congressman Hamilton. Both of them say they were lied to. Both of them say they don't have the story. Both of them say that they weren't supposed to find out who did it. That wasn't their charter. They were not allowed to do that. They were told who did it. They were told Osama bin Laden and 19 Arabs with box cutters did this. We want you to find out where the intelligence failures were. And that was all that they were supposed to do. They did not question Dick Cheney about what the orders were in the White House bunker that still stood. They never found out or even asked who the young officer was that asked him, "Sir, do the orders still stand?" It was not an investigation of what happened. That was not their charter. And they know they were lied to, and that those lies made their way into the final report. And Governor Kane is particularly incensed that what he considered his most important conclusion was left out of the final report completely. And that was the conclusion that we never would have been the target of terrorism in the first place, except for a very one-sided foreign policy which favored Israel over the Palestinians and favored dictatorships over democracies. And in other words, blowback. That certainly isn't the whole story, but the point is that even he is unsatisfied with the final report, which was written, after all, by Philip Zelikow, a White House flack. And so it's no wonder that we don't have the story. And even the chairman of the commission know that we don't have the story. So we definitely need a new investigation to find out what happened and how and by who this man.
Well, I can't answer to what happened on 9/11, but I am led to believe that responses to things by the military are much more slipshod than we would be led to believe. And my reason for saying this is the numerous plowshares actions that have occurred in this country, in which cases the perpetrators have had to sit there for as much as an hour and wait for somebody to come and arrest them.
Sure. Well, I was party to a similar thing in the Soviet Union in the old days. It was funny because I was up on the rooftop of the Rosia Hotel making a reservation for dinner for that night at the rooftop restaurant, and I saw this small plane flying over Moscow. Unheard of. I'd never seen a plane over Moscow before. And it came closer, and it came lower, and it came down, and it made a rectangular pattern, and it came down to land in Red Square, which was right below us. And there were too many people, so it went up again and went all the way around, and came down, went up again and around. The third time it came around, the people had cleared out of the way, and it landed. And, of course, it was Matthias Rust and his Cessna, flown from Finland. And he stood there for half an hour waiting to be arrested. Later that night, we were having dinner at the rooftop restaurant, and there was the Cessna sitting down there in Red Square, and behind it there were fireworks going off all around the city. It was Frontier Day. They were celebrating the vigilance of their border guards. It was not just our military.
But when you talk about how long, where were the interceptors? I mean, how do we really know that this is not much more slipshod than the way it should be?
Can I address that? Because there's a good example.